Susan stared through the small barred window of her prison cell. One hand rested on her stomach. The other wiped away tears. She refused to let the other inmates see. "My babies," she whispered. "I don't know how we're going to survive this, but I promise you one thing." She smiled through the pain. "Your mother will never stop fighting for you." The prison was nothing like the life she had known. There were no soft beds, no warm embraces, no Ethan waiting at the dinner table. Every morning began with shouting. Every night ended with silent tears. One afternoon, an older inmate noticed Susan struggling to carry a bucket of water. "You're pregnant, aren't you?" Susan looked startled. "How did you know?" "I've raised 4 children." The woman gently took the bucket from her. "You shouldn't be lifting this." Susan smiled weakly. "Thank you. What did you do to end up here?" Susan looked down. "I trusted the wrong person." Outside the prison walls, Ethan's life was falling apart. He had won the case, but somehow, he felt like he had lost everything. His assistant entered the office. "Sir, your investors are waiting." "I'm not in the mood." "They've been waiting an hour." "I said I'm not in the mood." The assistant hesitated. "I've never seen you like this." Neither had Ethan. His office suddenly felt empty. Susan wasn't there to call him and ask if he had eaten. She wasn't sending him funny pictures during meetings. She wasn't waiting for him at home. He had everything money could buy. Yet he couldn't sleep. That evening, Ethan stood alone in their house. Susan's favorite mug was still beside the coffee machine. Her slippers were still by the sofa. A framed wedding photo smiled back at him. He picked it up. "You really did this." His voice broke. "Didn't you?" But for the first time, he wasn't asking Susan. He was asking himself. Days turned into weeks. Susan's pregnancy became harder to hide. The prison doctor examined her. "The babies are growing well." Susan smiled. "That's all I care about." "You need less stress." Susan almost laughed. "I'm in prison," the doctor sighed. "I'll do what I can." Meanwhile, Sofia believed her victory was complete. She visited Ethan under the excuse of checking on him. He barely acknowledged her. "You look terrible," she said. "I feel worse." "You need to move on." "My wife is in prison." "Your ex-wife." "I never divorced her." Sofia forced a smile. "After what she did?" Ethan stared out the window. "I keep hearing her voice." "What do you mean?" "She kept saying someone framed her." Sofia's heartbeat quickened. "So? What if—" He stopped speaking. "What if what?" "What if she was telling the truth?" Sofia immediately laughed. "Ethan, don't do this to yourself." "The evidence was overwhelming." "I know." "You saw it yourself." "I know." "But," he looked down, "something doesn't feel right." Sofia hid the panic on her face. She stood and gently touched his shoulder. "You're grieving." "No." "You're lonely." "No." "Then what is it?" "I know Susan." He looked directly at Sofia. "And the woman I know would rather die than betray me." Sofia's smile disappeared for a split second. Then she recovered. "Love makes people do strange things." After leaving his office, she immediately made a phone call. "We have a problem." A man's voice answered. "What happened?" "Ethan is starting to doubt everything." "That's impossible." "I don't care. Destroy anything that connects us. Every file, every message, every payment. I want nothing left." But someone had already copied the files. Deep inside Kang Global's cybersecurity department, junior analyst Daniel Choi frowned at his computer screen. "That's strange." He opened a deleted server log, then another. His eyes widened. "These timestamps don't match." He compared them to the official investigation. "No, this can't be right." The digital signature used to frame Susan had been uploaded, after she had already left the building. Daniel immediately grabbed the hard drive. I need to tell Mr. Kang. Before he reached the elevator, someone called his name. He turned. Standing behind him was Sofia Han. She smiled politely. Working late? Daniel swallowed hard. Just finishing something. She glanced at the hard drive in his hand. What are you carrying? Daniel forced a smile. Nothing important. For the first time since framing Susan, Sofia felt genuine fear. She knew that if Daniel reached Ethan's office, her entire lie would begin to unravel. Daniel tightened his grip on the hard drive. His instincts screamed at him to hide it. Sofia walked closer, her smile calm, but her eyes were anything but friendly. You seem nervous, she said. I'm not. Then why are you holding that drive like your life depends on it? Daniel forced a laugh. It's just backup files. Really? Yes, Sofia extended her hand. Let me see it. Daniel's heart pounded. I'm afraid I can't. Her smile disappeared. I wasn't asking. For several tense seconds, neither of them moved. Then Daniel took one slow step backward. I'm sorry, Ms. Han. Mr. Kang specifically instructed that no one touches confidential data. Sofia stared at him. You'll regret saying no to me. Without another word, Daniel hurried toward the elevator. The doors closed just as Sofia reached them. She slammed her fist against the metal. Stop him! But it was too late. Daniel rushed into Ethan's office without knocking. The assistant jumped to his feet. Mr. Choi, you can't. I have to see Mr. Kang, right now. Ethan looked up from his desk. What is it? Daniel placed the hard drive on the table. Sir, I think your wife was framed. The room became silent. Ethan slowly stood. What did you just say? I found deleted server logs. Explain. Daniel connected the hard drive to Ethan's computer. Lines of data appeared on the screen. The official investigation claimed Mrs. Martins accessed the company's servers at 9:18 p.m. Yes, but according to the original security logs, Daniel clicked another file. Her employee access card recorded her leaving the building at 7:46 p.m. Ethan frowned. That's impossible. It gets worse. Daniel opened another folder. The digital signature used on the stolen files wasn't created from Mrs. Martins's computer. Whose was it? We don't know yet. But it was uploaded remotely. Ethan's breathing became heavier. So, my wife couldn't have done it. No, sir. Someone wanted her to take the blame. Ethan staggered backward. Every word Susan had spoken replayed inside his mind. Someone framed me. Please trust me. Look into my eyes. He remembered refusing. He remembered calling the police. He remembered watching her leave in handcuffs. His knees almost gave way. Oh my God. Daniel lowered his head. I'm sorry, sir, Ethan whispered. What have I done? Without wasting another second, Ethan ordered a complete forensic audit. Every email, every camera, every financial record, every deleted file. For the next 48 hours, an entire team of cyber experts worked without sleep. Then the report arrived. The lead investigator entered Ethan's office carrying a thick folder. We've identified the person responsible. Ethan looked up hopefully. Who? The investigator opened the file. Several photographs slid across the desk. The first picture showed Sofia meeting secretly with the hacker. The second showed money being transferred into anonymous accounts. The third captured her entering the server room late at night. The final image came from a forgotten security camera in the underground parking garage. It clearly showed Sofia handing a large envelope of cash to the company's former IT administrator. Ethan couldn't breathe. No, the investigator nodded. Ms. Sofia Han orchestrated everything. His world collapsed. Every accusation, every insult, every tear Susan cried had been because he chose lies over the woman he loved. His hands shook violently. I need my wife. He grabbed his car keys and sprinted out of the office. His assistant called after him. "Sir, where are you going?" "To bring Susan home." Inside the prison, Susan sat quietly in the infirmary. Her pregnancy was entering its final months. The prison doctor smiled after finishing another examination. "Your twins are strong." Susan smiled softly. "They're all I have. You should be proud. I already am." Just then, a prison officer rushed into the room. "Mrs. Martins," she looked up. "Yes?" "You have a visitor." Susan's smile faded. "I don't have any family here." The officer hesitated. "It's your husband." The room became completely silent. Susan closed her eyes. A single tear rolled down her face. After several seconds, she whispered, "Tell him." "I'm not ready to see him." Outside the prison gates, Ethan stood waiting with tears streaming down his face. For the first time in his life, the billionaire who could buy almost anything in the world realized there was one thing money could never purchase: forgiveness. Ethan refused to leave. For 6 straight hours, he stood outside the prison gates, ignoring the rain that soaked his suit. The guards watched him in silence. One of them finally walked over. "Mr. Kang," Ethan looked up. "Your wife said she isn't ready to see you." His voice cracked. "I'll wait." "You could be here all night." "I'll wait." The guard nodded slowly. He had seen countless visitors come and go. None had ever waited like this. Inside her cell, Susan sat on the edge of her bed. The older inmate looked at her gently. "You're really not going to see him?" Susan smiled sadly. "What should I say?" "The truth." "I already told him the truth." "And he chose someone else." The older woman nodded. "I understand." Susan placed both hands over her stomach. "My children deserve better. They deserve a father. They deserve a father who believes their mother." Her voice trembled. "I begged him. I cried. I looked into his eyes. And he still called the police." She shook her head. "I can't forget that." The next morning, Ethan was still standing outside. His assistant rushed over carrying an umbrella. "Sir, please go home." "No. You haven't eaten." "I don't care." "You haven't slept." "I don't deserve to." The assistant had worked for Ethan for 12 years. He had never seen him cry. Until now. Meanwhile, Sofia was arrested. The police stormed into her luxury apartment just before sunrise. She opened the door in confusion. "What is the meaning of this?" The lead detective held up a warrant. "Sofia Hahn, you're under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, cybercrime, bribery, and fabricating evidence." She laughed. "You can't prove anything." The detective placed photographs in front of her. Her smile vanished. "No." Bank records, security footage, phone recordings. The hacker had confessed. The former IT administrator had confessed. Even the employee she bribed had confessed. Everything pointed to her. She slowly backed away. This isn't possible." The detective stepped forward. "It is now!" The handcuffs clicked around her wrists. As reporters surrounded the police vehicle, cameras flashed nonstop. One reporter shouted, "Ms. Hahn, why did you frame Susan Martins?" Another yelled, "Do you regret destroying their marriage?" Sofia lowered her head. For the first time, she had no answers. News of Sofia's arrest spread across the country. Television stations interrupted their regular programming. Breaking news. Billionaire CEO Ethan Kang's wife has been declared innocent after a massive conspiracy is uncovered. Social media exploded. Susan deserves justice. Ethan should have trusted his wife. Free Susan Martins. Within hours, the court overturned Susan's conviction. The prison governor personally walked to her cell. "Mrs. Martins." Susan stood slowly. "Yes?" "You've been officially cleared of all charges." She stared at him. "What?" "You're free." The words didn't register. "I'm free?" "Yes." She covered her mouth as tears streamed down her face. After months of pain, she was finally innocent in the eyes of the law. But her heart still carried scars no court could erase. Outside the prison, dozens of reporters waited. So did Ethan. The gate slowly opened. Susan walked out wearing simple clothes, one hand resting on her pregnant belly. The crowd became silent. Ethan took one hesitant step toward her. "Susan!" She stopped. For several seconds, they simply stared at each other. Then Ethan dropped to his knees. Gasps echoed through the crowd. The billionaire CEO bowed his head. "I'm sorry." His voice shook uncontrollably. "I was wrong. I failed you. I failed us. I chose lies over the woman I promised to protect." Tears rolled down his face. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to hear me say, 'I'm sorry.'" Susan looked down at him. She had imagined this moment countless times. She thought it would heal her. Instead, it only reminded her of everything she had lost. She spoke softly. "Ethan." He looked up hopefully. "When I begged you to believe me, you looked at evidence. When I cried, you looked away. When I called your name, you called the police." Every word hit him like a hammer. She placed his hand gently on her stomach. His eyes widened. "What?" A tiny kick pressed against his palm. Another one followed. Ethan froze. His lips trembled. "Susan." She looked directly into his eyes. "Meet your children." His entire body shook. "Children?" She nodded. "Twins." The color drained from Ethan's face. He stumbled backward before falling to his knees again. He buried his face in his hands and sobbed. "My babies. My God. You were pregnant. The whole time." Susan couldn't hold back her own tears anymore. "Yes. You sent all three of us to prison." The weight of those words crushed what remained of Ethan's pride. He realized that living with that truth would be a punishment far greater than any prison sentence. Ethan remained on his knees long after the reporters stopped asking questions. Nothing around him mattered anymore. Not the cameras, not the headlines, not the whispers. Only Susan. Only the two tiny lives growing inside her. He looked up with tears streaming down his face. "I don't deserve to call myself their father." Susan said nothing. "I wasn't there when you found out." Silence. "I wasn't there when you cried." Silence. "I wasn't there when you needed someone to protect you." His voice broke. "And I was the one who put you there." Susan slowly wiped away a tear. "You finally understand." "I understand now." "No, Ethan." She shook her head. "You understand too late." She walked past him. He didn't try to stop her. For the first time since meeting Susan, he knew love wasn't about holding someone close. Sometimes, love meant accepting that you might have already lost them. Weeks passed. Susan rented a small apartment overlooking the Han River. It wasn't luxurious. It wasn't filled with expensive furniture. But it was peaceful. Every evening she talked to her babies. "We're going to be okay. You'll grow up surrounded by love. You'll never have to wonder whether your mother wanted you." One evening, there was a knock at the door. Susan opened it. Ethan stood there, holding two small gift boxes. "I know you probably don't want to see me." She remained silent. "I brought something." She looked at the boxes. "What are they?" "I bought them before." His voice cracked. "Before I knew." Susan slowly opened the first box. Inside was a tiny pair of blue baby shoes. The second box contained a pink pair. She froze. "I bought them the night I found out the investigation had reopened." "You already believed I was innocent?" "I was hoping. I prayed I was wrong." He looked down. "I just wasn't brave enough to admit it until the truth found me." Susan gently closed the boxes. "They're beautiful. I don't expect forgiveness." "I know. I only want one chance. To be a father. Susan looked into his eyes. For them. For all three of you. Months later, Susan went into labor. The contractions came suddenly in the middle of the night. She tried calling a taxi. None were available. Before she could try again, another contraction forced her to sit down. At that exact moment, someone knocked on the door. It was Ethan. He had been dropping off groceries every Friday without expecting to come inside. He heard her cry out. "Susan!" She gripped the wall. "The babies!" Without hesitation, Ethan rushed to her side. "I've got you." He carefully helped her into the car. Throughout the drive, Susan squeezed his hand so tightly, it almost went numb. "I'm scared." He looked at her. "So am I. But you're not alone." Hours later, 2 loud cries filled the delivery room. A nurse smiled. "Congratulations. You have a healthy baby boy and a healthy baby girl." Susan cried tears of relief. Ethan covered his face as emotions overwhelmed him. The nurse placed the tiny babies into Susan's arms. She smiled. "They're beautiful." Ethan stood a few steps away, afraid to come closer. Susan looked at him. "They're waiting." His eyes widened. "For me?" She nodded. "They deserve to know their father." Slowly, he walked forward. The baby boy wrapped his tiny fingers around Ethan's index finger. The little girl opened her eyes. Ethan broke down completely. "I'm so sorry." He kissed both babies gently. "I promise. I will spend the rest of my life making up for the days I stole from you." Susan watched him carefully. For the first time since everything happened, she saw the man she had fallen in love with. Not the billionaire, not the CEO, just Ethan. Months turned into a year. Ethan never missed a doctor's appointment, never missed a birthday, never missed a feeding when he was needed. He didn't try to buy Susan's forgiveness with expensive gifts. He earned her trust with consistency. One ordinary afternoon, they sat together in a park while the twins laughed as they chased pigeons. Susan smiled. "They look happy." They are. They have their mother's heart and their father's stubbornness. They both laughed. Ethan looked at her. "I'll ask you only once." She turned toward him. "Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving that the worst mistake I ever made will never define the husband and father I choose to be?" Susan was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached for his hand. "I'm not forgetting what happened. I know. But I don't want our children to grow up seeing hatred." Ethan nodded, tears filling his eyes again. "So, we start again." He squeezed her hand gently. "This time, I'll listen before I judge, and I'll trust before I doubt." The twins ran toward them, laughing. Ethan lifted his son. Susan picked up their daughter. As the sun set behind them, they walked away together. Not because the past had disappeared, but because they had chosen to build a better future. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Do you think Susan forgave Ethan too easily, or did he truly earn a second chance? Your thoughts could inspire the next emotional story. Because sometimes the deepest wounds don't disappear. They become the reason a family learns the true meaning of love, trust, and forgiveness.